Hello. So today we're going to talk about our 6 reasons why we started homeschooling. Number 1 is to incorporate the Bible, primarily because there's no biblical reference or prayer in public school. We've previously been in a Presbyterian private school, which we loved. Our daughter learned a lot of biblical references, songs, and just the love of Jesus, and we really liked it. So when we switched over, the only reason why we switched from our private school was because they stopped at I think it was 4K, and no, it was 5K. She went for 3 and 4K, and for 5K they only had they didn't have any girls in the class, and we didn't want her to be the only girl in the class. So we decided that for 5K we would switch her over to our public Head Start Center. Got there, the teacher that she did have, we loved her. She has been with our family for a while. We've known her. My mom knew her, and it was just a good experience. It was a good fit for us, for our daughter. She was really the well-rounded kid in the class. She would always help the other children because they were having a hard time adjusting, because of course this was their first year. And she did really well with helping the teacher out, getting everybody else calmed down in the mornings, and it was really good. They loved her, she loved them. It was just, it went off without a hitch. Kindergarten, we had a few hiccups because we changed schools. She had my kindergarten teacher, which was really good, but we did have some hiccups. There was a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but there was some inappropriate conversations that a 5 going on 6-year-old should not be discussing, and we'll just call it adult business. So that was, of course, the first time that we kind of had a red flag in public school. Of course, that's not unusual, but it is inappropriate, and I did not like it. So, and of course, our daughter, it was, being the well-rounded young lady she was, and that we had already prepped her for these types of, if anything happens and she's uncomfortable, to let us know, let the teacher know, and the teacher will let us know, or, just let us know if the teacher is not, around, or, it happens when you're not with the teacher, let us know so that we can address it ourselves. So she did, and after that, kindergarten, of course, went off without a hitch. First grade was when we really started to see some, I wouldn't say regression, but we started to see the gap areas in our public school. Now, mind you, every public school has its gap areas. We are in a failing low grading scale district. I think it's a D. A couple years ago it was an F. So of course it didn't have a lot of funding going for it. So a lot of things we expected a lot of things to happen. We went to this school, our parents attended this school. It's our local school, so we knew what we experienced, me and my husband. So we kind of knew what was to be expected. So, of course, which leads us into our second reason why we decided to homeschool, was bullying, peer pressure. We get to 2nd grade, and our daughter was a kid. She never wanted to grow up. She always wanted to play with her dolls. We would buy toys all year round, and every time we go in Walmart, she's wanting to buy a toy. Well, one day she comes home, and, we're walking, I pick up every day. One day we're coming out of the school, and she tells me, "Mama, I don't want any more LOL dolls. I don't want any more Barbies either." And I stop in my tracks, because I know my kid, and I'm like, why do you not want any more LOLs or Barbies? You know, you love Barbies. You love LOLs. We've had LOL birthday parties. We had Barbie birthday parties. You know, these are revolving things that we have and that we do. We do we do kid themed parties. You know, her room is decorated like this. You know, we went from Frozen. You know, having all this decorations for Frozen, and you know, she gets to second grade and she's like, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, I don't want that anymore. So of course, I'm like, okay, this is a less than 24-hour change. So I'm like, okay, what happened? What's wrong? And she tells me the other child's name, and she said those are for. She told me that those are for babies, and that if I'm not a baby, then I shouldn't be playing with them. And I tell her, I said, you are my baby, and as long as you want to play with dolls, you can. There's no rule that says that you can't play with dolls. I said, you know, I even played with dolls until I was about 12 or 13. I play with dolls. And you give me a nice one now, I'll play with it now. But there's no reason for you to say that you don't want, you know, dolls. And I gave her the talk of, you know, peer pressure and bullying, and that some people are, you know, angry because of things that they don't get. And if they see you always getting them, then sometimes it can make them a little upset because they're not getting them. And, you know, maybe a week or two goes by, and, you know, she has pretty long hair. It's about down to like bra length, middle waist, her back. And I would always braid her hair up, with beads on the end, of course, because she's 7 and 8. And she decides that she doesn't want that anymore. She doesn't want, you know, beads on her hair. And of course, I'm investigating again because this is a kid that has never had a problem with the way her hair is done. And she's making suggestions about crochet and, you know, stuff that I know that she knows nothing about. And after investigating that, the little girls in gym class told her, the girls that are in the same grade as her, second grade, told her hair was ugly. She said they kept telling her hair was ugly. And, you know, that she needed to wear weave. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. And at that point, that's when I approached the teacher. And I'm like, okay, she's giving me this child's name twice. I don't like what she's doing to my kid. And I don't like the changes that I'm seeing in my daughter, because my daughter is a kid. She's always been a kid. She likes her toys. She likes her video games. She likes to be a kid. And, you know, these changes with her, of course, are going to happen, but I want them to happen on her time, not on nobody pressuring her into feeling like she has to do it now, and that they're not going to talk to her because of the way her hair is. And that's not right, because this little girl didn't have straight hair. She had dreads. And I'm like, okay, that's not nice. That's not nice. So I spoke with the teacher, got that situated. You know, I didn't hear about it for about another month or so. Then I get a call from the principal's office, and this same girl, the first girl, because there were two. The second incident, there was two. The third time, it was back to the first girl, and she had hit my daughter. My daughter had hit her back in her eye, and you know, she's calling home, and my daughter is in full-blown tears because she thinks she's in trouble. And I tell her, well, you know, were you defending yourself? And she says, yeah. So after she tells me, yes, she hit me in the eye, and she hit me, and I hit her back. And I said, well, baby, you're not in trouble with me, and you know, they can't do anything to you but send you home. And that's not nothing for you to get worked up over. I'm on my way. So I go on up there, I pick her up. They didn't suspend her. But, you know, of course, that was another thing that just played into the continuing bullying. You know, we had a house fire, lost everything. And I love the 270s, the Nike 270s. And I bought her a pair of those that matched mine. And she wore them to school one day, and she said, she got in the car at pickup, and she said, Mama, I don't want these shoes anymore. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's wrong with the shoes? I just don't want them because people are saying they're ugly and that they don't like them. And I said, baby, if you want to wear unicorn shoes with sparkles on them and with glitter everywhere on them, you can. If that's what you like, you can wear that. You don't have to wear what they want you to wear. We've never bought Jordans. You know, we let her pick out her school shoes one year because of what she felt like everybody wanted her to wear, and she bought some Jordans and she hated them because they were not comfortable for her. But of course, yeah, it's sad that children at such young ages have to experience bullying and peer pressure to the point of it's inconvenient for their education. The third reason that we had was the pace. When we entered into second grade, there were some things that the teacher, of course, expected them to know because they were going into second grade. And I was a very active parent. I was there in the classroom as much as the teacher would allow. I would sit in the back and just silently observe. And there were some things that were not covered and that I could verify myself were not covered in the first grade for the second grade. And when the teacher asked the children about it, everybody in the classroom was looking like, what is she talking about? And I had to tell her they did not cover that last year. Most of the children that were in the second grade class was in the first grade class with my daughter, except for maybe a couple. And most of them did not know what she was talking about. And I told her, I said, that concept you're going to have to teach from the beginning as a new concept for them and kind of catch them up. Because they don't know, because she didn't cover that. The previous teacher didn't cover that. I don't know if it just wasn't in her curriculum setup, but it was not covered. And I could, let her know that, hey, you're gonna have to, start that from scratch. The goals were just moving too fast. A lot of the times, outside of that, they would introduce new tests. Oh, we got a test for this. Oh, they have to pass this. Oh, they have to, make a certain number on this. When the test was overall about the entire grade. What they would learn in that entire grade was given in a test at the beginning of the year. And the scores were recorded as is. So most of the children failed the test and received that F. So I didn't feel like that was fair. I think that was probably my last straw. I spoke with the principal, sat down with her, and before that I had already been contemplating homeschooling. It had been on my heart for a while. And we had previously tried in the summer of 2019. And we did it that summer. But when we went, of course, in August was the determining time to say, okay, we're either going to stick this out or we're going to go back into public. And the initial decision I gave to my daughter, I allowed peer pressure to sway my decision to homeschool. That was my biggest regret. I wish I had never even gave her the option or even taken on second opinions, because that was the longest, October, November, December, the longest 5 months, well actually 4.5, because she didn't go back at the beginning of August. She went kind of midway. They had already been in school, I think, about 2 weeks before she went. And by December, she was crying to be homeschooled again. By November, actually, she was crying to be homeschooled again. She didn't want to be in public school anymore. She did not like it. And, and I kept, because she would come home crying. And it's like, okay, is somebody bothering you? Like, I'm ready to fight at that point. Like, who's bothering you? Somebody's got to be bothering you for you to be crying about you want to be homeschooled now. And I told her, I said, well, if you still feel this, she assured me, no, nobody's bothering her. You know, she just doesn't like it. She doesn't want to be, you know, in public school anymore. And I told her, I said, well, I'll make you a promise. If December you decide that you still feel that way, we'll do it. I said, I will pull you out and, you know, we'll homeschool. And we are, I let her know that this is it. This is what we're going to be doing. We're going to go in 100% into homeschooling. Mind you, I already was ready to homeschool anyway. But we did. I pulled her out in December. It's so funny how God works, because I pulled her out in December. January 6th was when they were supposed to go back. I had already talked to my sister-in-laws and about my nieces, and we all decided unanimously that if I was pulling her out, all the girls were coming out. So that's 4 girls that I currently homeschool, and it's been the best decision. My niece struggled in public school and was just kind of passed along, and it just wasn't fair to the child. Now my other niece, she adjusted, you know, kind of well, but they're most of them are introverts. So they are, you know, I have one niece that would just smile at you when you ask her a question. I have the other one would just kind of, you know, she doesn't want people to look at her, you know, and it just was awkward for her. It took her 2 years to get used to the preschool level. So once we decided that, you know, hey, I'm pulling Maya out. Once I had already told my mom and complained to her about what was going on, and, you know, how I had tried to implement some things that I knew from my work experience, that, hey, I know if these other failing school districts can do it, I know we can. I know we can implement better resources. Apple has a program for education where they give you the actual iPads. You can get the books on the iPads then. Our school district didn't have books for everybody. They didn't have workbooks for everybody. And a lot of the worksheets that they were getting were from Teachers Pay Teacher or education.com. And I had the same thing. So it was like, okay, they're getting federal funding and state funding to educate our kids, but they're using the same resources that we can use at home. Education.com is magnificent. It's $100 a month, $100 a year, and it's been the best investment that I've made. But yeah, after we made the decision, you know, to pull her out, my sister-in-laws followed along with my nieces, and it was like week after week. In a matter of a week's time, I had all 4 girls at home and we were homeschooling. And the week that they were supposed to go back to school from the Christmas break, I think they went back, and then like a couple days later there was a tornado in our area which ripped through the elementary school that our kids previously attended, and they were out for until like mid-February, the end of February. They shut down all the schools to relocate the elementary school students. So that means our high school students were out of school, the pre-K students were out of school, and the elementary kids were out of school. So every child in our school district was out. Mind you, this is 2020. So March rolls around, they get out for spring break. COVID shuts everything down. And now they've been out ever since. For a while they didn't really have a plan. They really didn't have they weren't expecting that. Neither was anybody. Nobody was expecting, you know, COVID-19 to hit and to really shut everything down. But even though it shut everything down, we were still able to continue to thrive. I think we thrived even more because of the shutdown, if you really want to be honest about it. But at the time that we started homeschooling, one of my nieces was in the first grade, and she wasn't doing well. After I got her in and really started doing assessments with her, trying to see where she was. She wasn't doing well. She really wasn't where I felt like she needed to be at, mid-year, first grade. And mind you, that could have not been on her teacher, because she is not one to speak up. So if you're just going off of, her or smiling at you, then yeah, you would think that she's doing magnificent. But when you actually get her to talk, which took a lot, even with homeschooling, she would try to smile at me, and I'm like, nope, that's not gonna work. We gotta actually talk. And she's reading now. In the beginning, she wasn't, reading on her own. She was struggling, and it wasn't noticeable until you started working with her one-on-one. And she's really excelled. And the other two, we have when we started, we had a pre-K, a kindergarten, a first grader, and a second grader. Now we have, of course, a kindergartner, a first grader, second grader, and a third grader. And we have been able to kind of teach everybody the same thing, because I've learned that once you learn the concepts and the phonics, they're each built on top of each other. So back to our points. So of course, the fourth point is going to be the testing requirement. Not to say that they couldn't pass it, but the pressure from the testing requirement was very traumatic for our daughter. Even now, I'm still trying to get her out of the fail versus pass thinking. Because if she feels like she's finna pass, she's about to pass out. If she feels like she's about to fail, she's about to hyperventilate. She is about to work herself up, and she's about to pass out. And she's crying, and I'm like, okay, take a breath. It's not that kind of school. We do not do school that way. I want you to understand what you're doing and really get the concept versus a pass or fail. Because it's not about passing or failing, because you can, I know people that have cheated their way through high school and college, but still don't know the concept, or don't know, the material. But I want them to, of course, learn the spelling rules, learn, why everything works the way that it works in language arts and in math. And I want them to be comfortable and confident when they are finished with it. I don't want them to feel intimidated by school. And that's pretty much what it was. They were intimidated. And I found that the testing requirement was one of the things that was intimidating for them. The fourth thing, of course, is freedom. Like I said, we were in a failing school district. A lot of teachers didn't want to. After I did a lot of research with the principal and the assistant principal, I found out that field trips are all on the teacher. If the teacher lets the principal know that, hey, I want to have a field trip for my class, and I want to have it on such and such day, as long as they have everything in place and that it is proven to be educational, then they can take that field trip. I literally had a teacher to tell me that I do not want to deal with those wild children. They don't know how to act. Now, mind you, I do understand that, we do have some children that are not as fortunate to travel and not as fortunate to go places. But when I was growing up, there was always somebody that, didn't go anywhere, didn't, have the fortunate, wasn't fortunate enough to have parents that could take them places, and they looked forward to field trips at school because they got to go, they got to see different things. And it's the same thing today. And for you to take that away from a child just because you don't feel like being bothered with them, why are you a teacher? Why are you working with children? If you don't want to be bothered with children, don't work around children. I tell anybody, teaching is a work of your heart. You have to be fully vested in it, because you can't get into it for the pay, because I know they don't make a lot. They should, because they are, molding and modeling, the future. They're modeling children's minds and making sure that they're successful. But the freedom that we get with homeschooling, we get, because I'm a field trip type of person. I like to go, I like to travel, and it just hurts for them not to, for your kid to go to school 180 days and they never leave the school. Even when she was in preschool, they went on field trips. When she was at the private school, they went on field trips. We visited the fire station. We visited the pumpkin patch. We did things. They did Halloween trick-or-treating, trunk or treating. They did a lot of things. And I don't know, maybe that spoiled me to think that, this is something that should go along with education, because I'm a hands-on person. I learn hands-on. So for me, that taking that away was really hard. And it was a real blow that, these kids are never gonna get to go on a field trip with their classmates. So that has been, of course, that's been one of the aspects of freedom. The other aspect of freedom for me is that I get to pick the type of curriculum or the type of material that they learn from. I get to tailor it to each child's needs. There's no grade level to homeschooling. If you're homeschooling by the concepts and you are homeschooling by the skill, then there is no grade level. Because you can have, I met another person that really inspired me and really kind of gave me that last little nudge to move forward with homeschooling. I think her daughter was like 5 or 6. Okay, so I met this lady through gymnastics. We had started gymnastics in the summer, and we just really clicked. We lived like maybe 4 miles away from each other and didn't even know it. And she was telling me about her homeschooling experience so far. She has small girls. So, I did tell her that, my girls are bigger. And, that was when before we had that final nudge and we actually pulled them out. But her daughter was 6 and she already knew her multiplication facts. Now, mind you, my daughter was in 2nd grade and didn't know what a multiplication fact was. And it was that summer previously to going into 2nd grade that we learned about money. And when she made it to 2nd grade, we got into the classroom, and of course they were going over money, and there were some students that didn't know, and I had to explain to the teacher, they didn't cover that. That wasn't covered in full details. Like, some things they know what, of course, what a quarter is, but, of course, let's really get down to the nitty gritty. A lot of children, you can put money in front of them and they're like, coin money. Now, cash money, quite sure they can count it. But coin money, it was a struggle. And like I said, it's based off your child. Some kids catch on a lot easier than others. Some kids struggle. Some kids are introverts. Some kids are extroverts. But if you don't know your child's personality or their educational needs and where they are and how they learn, then it's gonna be hard. It's really gonna be hard. But we really enjoyed the freedom of being able to pick the curriculum, really research different curriculums, find a biblical based curriculum that incorporates God and really gives them a well-rounded understanding of God and the actual rules of phonics. Prior to this, I have a master's degree, and prior to homeschooling, I didn't know the phonics rules. I'll just say it. I had never heard of them. We just knew words were spelled a certain way, and they were spelled that way just because. I did not, it was hard to explain why they were spelled that way, and when do you double the L, or when do you double the S in certain words. And it has been a real adventure, learning along with them, really having that freedom to say, hey, we're not failing, we're learning. If we make mistakes, then we know we're learning. But yeah, really having the freedom to take field trips and schedule when we want to schedule homeschool. We do 4 days a week. We do Monday through Thursday. Fridays are activity days. We get to take field trips on Fridays. If it's one that, but prior to COVID, we were going somewhere every Friday. So we were doing 4 field trips a month. And it was fun. So, now we have gotten back into doing our activity days. And so far, so good. I have a list that I have for next year. And we just love the freedom of homeschooling. There's no, I need an excuse for school, or she needs an excuse to get back to class. Or, we can schedule our doctor's appointments around our days. We can schedule, of course, you can do that anyway. But we're not restricted to evening appointments. We can go in the morning. We can go, whenever we want to go. We get the best seats, and we get the best. We majority have a lot of places to ourselves when we go for activity days, and we just love the freedom. I just can't say it enough. There is freedom in planning your child's education. It really is. And if you're one of those parents that are just like, I can't do it, I cannot. Don't let that discourage you. Don't let having, a grade level discourage you from homeschooling. By far, it's not for everybody, because I have had some stressful days. I have a migraine disorder to where, and then that's the other beauty of it, to where when I'm sick, I can give them a little work that they can do on their own, and say, okay, after you get done with that, you're done, and I can rest. And I don't have to, worry about, oh God, they're going to be behind. And, my husband does help when needed. He's over here watching. But he does help. He does. He's our lunch man, our janitor, our assistant teacher. Our substitute. What else? Gym. He's our gym teacher. He's taught the girls how to play baseball. They played kickball once. But we just get to have the freedom. We get to have a lot of family time. We get to, of course, plan our vacations when others are in school. That's what I really love. I really love planning vacations while other people are in school. I am a germaphobic. I was a germaphobe before COVID. So I literally have marker band in our classroom. But yeah, I really just like the freedom. It's very invigorating to be able to go somewhere early and not have to worry about a crowd, not have to worry about a line. You get to go in, you get to have the place to yourself. The kids get to run free without you having to worry about, excuse me, my child's right there. Please don't run over my child. And it's just a lot of freedom in homeschooling. We get to pick. The curriculum we use is To Get Into Beautiful, and I really love it. But it's really not based on a grade level. Now they have level K, level pre-K, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and I think level 5 right now. And you may have a kid that's my kindergartner. I kid you not, she does first grade math. She does a level 1 math, and her kindergarten book is pretty advanced over public school, for what I've seen, for a kindergartner. And they weren't doing, a lot of the things that she's doing in her level K book. But of course for her, she's gonna absorb everything that everybody else is doing anyway, because she is watching them. and paying attention to what they're doing. So there's a lot of questions that she can answer for them. But of course, we like the Good and the Beautiful curriculum, because you can actually download their language arts curriculum for free. They offer it free, but you just you can pay for the binded copy, the printed and binded copy, but they offer it for free. And you can't beat that. A full language arts course, the course book, the phonics cards, the readers, it's all downloadable. How can you beat that? But again, the freedom. But the sixth thing, and I've already mentioned it, but I'm going to reiterate it, a failing district. That was that has always been the lingering reason for why we switched. And of course, that failing district is based off of scores, off of test scores. And I really don't think that's fair to the children, because you have a lot of children that are not test takers, or that they don't understand some of the wording. One test that my daughter took, after I looked at it and, kind of asked her, okay, where did you kind of get mixed up at? And she was like, I didn't understand some of the words that were on it. So it's like, okay, there's a lot of, there are millions of words in the English dictionary, in the English language. And, for a first, second grader to not understand some of the words that are on there, tells you one of two things. Either you're testing, whoever created this test was not thinking on a first, second grader level. Or, I would say that, hey, the child just doesn't know those words, or they've never been introduced to those words. Now, they do send home a lot of words and work and homework and things of that nature when we were in school, and that was one thing that I kind of cut out. The only reason that they would have homework is because of if they are, it's a hit and miss in class, and it's like, okay, I want you to work on this a little bit more, and tomorrow we're going to look at it again, but I want you to look at it tonight as a refresher so that you can remember it and so it can really get into your brain. But outside of that, those were our 6 reasons. And again, those 6 reasons were incorporating the Bible, bullying, peer pressure, the pace, some children getting left behind, the testing requirement, the freedom of homeschooling, and the failing district. And of course, your reasons may be different, but those were our 6 reasons for why we decided to homeschool and why we started homeschooling. And I haven't looked back. And our goal is to do it on through high school for all of the girls.